Hello and what's up, beautiful people? Welcome to another great episode of this particular podcast. I do hope that you're doing well and you're happy to be with us as we get you on a journey, on a discussion on our typical matters right here in the 254 and also across the continent of Africa. My name is Spikes and you have the one and only Lagson Kamau as well. We are looking forward to having a great show. Hi Lagson, how are you doing?
I'm good, I'm doing fine. I'm glad to be on this show.
And of course, we are also happy to have you, and we are hoping to be able to deliberate on a few issues. And one of the issues, or the main issue of our concern for today, happens to be the African Union. I think we have had an opportunity in previous times to be able to talk about the African Union. And one of the things I happen to ask, I've always asked people, do you believe the African Union has the power, or the African Union serves the role it's supposed to play across the African continent and even beyond?
I think the answer to that question is relative.
Yeah.
Well, I've had a statement saying the African Union is a toothless dog.
Yeah.
And a bit ineffective.
Yeah.
That comes, of course, through its peacekeeping missions.
Yeah.
Like the one in Somalia.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about funding.
Yes.
When you follow the finances,
Yeah.
where the finances are, the better the equipment for the soldiers,
Yeah.
the better the more efficient
Yeah.
the missions.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can't compare it with other bodies like the European Union or the world body United Nations.
I would agree, because one of the things I heard is someone saying that the African Union is also funded by the European Union. Is that true? I'm not quite sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
For instance, the bank,
Yeah.
African Development Bank.
Yeah.
I've seen Western countries which do up to 18% of the funding.
Yeah.
So at some point, it's African by name,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of external influence.
I agree with you 100%. And when it comes even to the issue of the funding, African countries are supposed to be contributing towards making a particular, a certain contribution towards the running of the African Union.
Yeah, they do.
But most countries don't. Some of the countries I had at some point, a country like Sudan, they had fallen short of their contributions and had not contributed for a couple of years.
Yeah, based on how the economy of that state.
Yeah.
They might not be able to make that contribution.
Yeah.
But politically stable countries do contribute.
For example, Kenya.
Yes,
Kenya, South Africa. I believe Ethiopia is also making the rightful contributions.
Nigeria,
Ghana and Nigeria.
Yes.
Something that also this stand up that also makes me question about the sovereignty of this African Union happens to be the issue of the building that was constructed as the AU headquarters by the Chinese.
Yes.
What did you make of that particular they said it was just a small contribution, a small help that they were giving to the African Union. What did you make of that, the Chinese?
The Chinese have their own interests.
Yeah.
And so constructing the headquarters of the African Union is a statement. They are making a statement.
Yeah.
And clearly what they are telling Africa, we are with you guys.
Yeah.
Well, when we talk about China and Africa, the relationship goes way back. We have this railway from Tanzania to Zambia.
Yeah.
It's called Tazara.
Yeah.
That is one of the first projects China did in Africa.
Yeah.
And China back then was actually a very poor nation.
Yeah.
But they told Mwalimu Nyerere and his people and the Zambians that we might be poor, but let's do a project together.
Yeah, together.
Yes. So Chinese have been with Africa for a while.
They have their own interests as well.
In the 2000s, African presidents decided maybe we are not getting a good deal with the West.
Yeah.
Let's try go to the East.
Yeah.
And so the Chinese came to Africa. Big.
What I happened to realize is that there was an issue that came up with the construction of that particular headquarters. There was a bargain. There was some bargain gadgets that were bagging the conversations.
I've heard the same even with the Kenyan parliament.
Yeah.
They would question if the Chinese are renovating our parliament.
Yeah.
Don't you suspect that they are going to bag?
Do also the same.
Yes.
So the African Union headquarters, they realized that there was a bargain. But even when the gadgets were found, there is nothing that the African leaders did say. For example, Kagame did say, kept silent. I think at that particular point he was a leader. He was the head of the AU.
You see, as a power, as an economic powerhouse, you must keep tabs with your partners.
Quote unquote partners.
Or opponents.
Yeah.
The same problem America had with Huawei.
Mm.
They believe that the Chinese are using
Huawei and even
gadgets,
TikTok.
yeah,
Yeah.
to monitor
Yeah.
American.
Get information from the Americans.
Population, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a bit of a surveillance, which is I don't think it's necessary, and also African Union ought to be more sovereign. But nonetheless, our focus for today goes into the matter of the leadership of the African Union. Yes. There has been a highly contested position, which happens to be the position of the African Union chairmanship, chairperson. And the two forerunners happen to be Kenya's Raila Odinga, the former Prime Minister in Kenya. And we also did have one particular leader from Djibouti,
yes, that's
Mahmoud Ali Yusuf.
Yes.
And there has been a whole lot of propaganda. Some of it is happens to be disinformation regarding the whole process.
Yeah.
And of course, the other happens to be factual information. But let me ask you, from the very start when you heard that we did have Raila Amolo Odinga vying for this particular position, what was your opinion? Did you think that he had what it took to become the African Union chairperson?
Yeah, looking at the CVs of the three candidates, I think Mr. Odinga has the best CV.
Yeah. Are you talking about age? Because
no, not age. Actually, age might be come as a limitation, actually.
Yeah.
But if you look at its CV, and you look at the other guys, as if you are employing a manager, you want the most experience. Remember, Mr. Odinga has been a minister. He has been a long-running politician. He has been a prime minister. And also he used to be the higher representative at the African Union. So he knows the inner workings of governance. I think he's qualified.
That is from the get-go.
Yes,
What you thought that he was.
But now we have a major issue with Mr. Odinga locally. It's not even at the African Union level. Locally, the people are divided regarding his candidature. Because some feel, especially the younger Kenyans, the Gen Zs, they feel that Mr. Odinga betrayed them. And he betrayed them because during their protest for good governance, he joined the government that they were protesting
against.
Yes. But if you look at the history of Mr. Odinga, that freedom the Gen Z are enjoying, freedom of speech and expression, actually Mr. Odinga is a key player in the liberation of Kenya.
I would maybe perhaps agree to a particular extent, but also when it comes to, like you're saying that he was very qualified, one of I think the most qualified according to you.
Yes.
For me, I do ask myself, Mr. Odinga himself had been a member of parliament for Langata for a very, very long time. I think about over 10 years he was a member of a parliament for that particular place. But when you go back to the area that he was given to oversight, or just to oversight, you realize that there has not been any match that can be showed. And you can say, for example, when he was the minister, this is the track record for, even let's talk about the Langata constituency.
There are some housing projects that were undertaken in Kibera during his prime minister reign. Politics is a bit dynamic, and when you say about development, you see the person who's coming to Kibera is a low income.
Low income earner.
Low income earner. Or somebody who's just starting, like comes from the village, and they are starting life in the city. One of the relatives amemwalika. So when they come to the city, they do not have income, and they'll start with menial jobs. So places like Kibera, Mathare,
informal settlements
let's call them informal settlements. They'll always be around unless there's government intervention. I've heard about the affordable housing. These affordable housing. I don't think it's very effective.
It might not work at the end of the day.
It's very effective. Because if you have affordable housing 30 kilometers away from the city, now you have another problem. Transport.
Transportation. Then becomes a jam, a traffic.
Kibra, they are walking distance to the city or to the industrial area. So these people who work there, who work at these industries and many jobs in the city, live in these
outskirts,
and they are not far from the city. So commuting is another issue. So when
decongesting, I think the whole issue is decongesting the city, not even about commuting, because I think there can be options for bikes, like in other places where people even use bikes and they can be able to move from one particular area to another area without having. But the whole issue is
for me, if you are talking about outskirts, having suburbs as the affordable housing, you need then to create a very efficient public
transport system.
That you have commuter trains. You'll have public service buses, which are very affordable. That the person is able to use those particular buses. So it's subsidized to those who are not able to pay. These are the means of transport. But then again, going back to this particular conversation, you realize that the African Union is classified into 5 regions. We do have the southern region, we do have the central region, we do have the eastern region, we do have the western region, and we do have the northern Africa region. So when there was this particular contest for the next chairman, chairperson who was supposed to succeed Moussa Faki, who is from Chad, we know that it could not go back to this particular western region again, because the Central Africa region, because already they had someone. Before that, they had a South African.
And I believe
so this very instance, it was for the East African countries.
The East African countries, maybe Northern Africa, maybe as well.
And one of the problem Mr. Odinga faced, that particular
contest,
his bid failed, is because of the candidate from Madagascar.
What was happening with the candidate from Madagascar?
Of course, between him and Mr. Odinga, they had to split the votes, the EAC and the SADC votes. You know, we are Eastern and Southern Africa. We are a sort of a block. You see, the Northerners and the Western Africa, they are Muslim community. So they
sort
will
of a
definitely
block as well. Vote
for their own. But when we come to Eastern Africa and Southern Africa, we are supposed to be a block. So when we had 2 candidates, it was definitely that gave the Djibouti guy
a head start. But then again, also when you look at there was this gesture that was given by the Kenyan leaders. We did have MPs going to Addis Ababa because that is where the elections were happening on the 15th. What did you make of this particular gesture by MPs? I think resources, for me, if you do get to ask me, I think resources would perhaps be channeled to another different, better use. Instead of having all this, I think moral support is important.
What we need to learn about what the MPs and the ministers and the governors did is how Kenyans perceive public office. Kenyans perceive public office as a source of leisure
and revenue and making wealth.
It's a bridgestone to wealth, to good life.
Good life.
When you have that belief, the MP believes that. The citizen believes that when we put on of our own,
they'll go and have opportunities.
Then we will. And to some extent it's true, because somebody will go and
lobby for
his nieces, his uncles,
or even lobby for a bit of resources to come your way.
The problem, here is where the problem arises with Kenyan politics. What you have your relative as an MP or as a minister, the only thing they can do for you is a job. They can get you a job. That does not help. Think of this. Say we are coffee farmers. Our coffee has a lot of problems and hiccups getting to the international market. So who is supposed to lobby that for us?
I think we have
the member of parliament.
We have officials that also like us having a coffee board and others.
But who is supposed to lobby those guys?
It's a member of parliament, because he's the one who is in contact with the farmers on the ground.
If your agenda is to get hired by your uncle or whatever who's standing there, then you are lost. You are supposed to vote for a leader to lobby, not to help you with handouts and jobs.
Because those are menial.
You are already a job creator. When you are a coffee farmer, you've already created job for yourself and the workers who are coming to.
And also people working at the factory.
Yes, and the factory, that whole supply chain, you are already an employer. So an MP is supposed to lobby for your interest. But we do not have that.
That does not really happen. But then again, going back to this particular issue of the Raila Odinga are losing at this particular bid.
Yes.
For me, I would say it has to do also, like you said, not really even with local politics. Because if you get to ask me, some of the people that were very happy that Raila lost are the people that also voted for him for presidency in 2022.
Yes.
The same people. Someone who had gone out very early in the morning knowing that Raila. But then again, with the local politics and the change around the protests that came about in June, now people started having a different opinion of the same, Mr. Odinga. Now people moved from their allegiance or loyalty.
Yes, the local contributed a lot because people would send. I hear they would send emails to African
leaders telling them not to.
They'll ask themselves, why should we elect someone
who is not having local support?
Yes, and that's very interesting.
But do you think
other
that
countries are supporting their
own fully? But then again, what do you think? Do you think that also? What does it have an impact on the global image or the global standing of Kenya? The loss of Raila Odinga, does it bear any consequence, or when it comes to how people look at Kenya as a country now that one of your own has lost? Does it have any far-reaching effects on how people see our country?
So because there was no instability, there were no riots or demonstrations. So investors will not run because you did not support your candidates. But they will of course wonder why would people from this country not
support their own.
Yes,
that is a good question.
Yes.
But then again, what do you think has been the next step for Mr. Odinga? Do you think he should just retire now, go back to Bondo and just do farming and all? Because I've seen even people coming up on Twitter and saying and X and saying, oh, there should be a seat made for him. There should be a prime minister position. Why do you think people still hold on to that belief that only particular individuals can run a particular office?
Because it's all about the numbers. Mr. Odinga has the numbers.
Another influence, political influence. Do you think it's dwindling, or do you think it has helped?
Has never dwindled. Mr. Odinga's support has never dwindled. In the coast, in the western region, in his home turf, even in central, they vote because of him. If he's
not in the ballot, they have something to go ahead and vote for.
If he's a ballot, they are voting against. So also that is a blow. Even if you call it against
it's still a
because
blow
of
because of
Odinga.
So
any politician in Kenya cannot ignore
Mr. Odinga,
and that's why
they are wooing him. They want him in their party or in their.
Mr. Ruto wanted him so badly at the African Union because he knew his game was easy. The people would not turn out in the next election
to do anything. But now he's still in the ballot. The whole process.
Yes,
but now he's still in the ballot. It will be a difficult task.
Mr. Odinga
decides to still be in the ballot. People still have a reason to go and vote.
But I don't think he's going to do that.
He's not going to be. But he still have someone to back. He'll have to back someone. And someone, people want their cosine.
I think at this moment,
they want the cosine.
The way I see things, at this very moment, the way I see things, Mr. Odinga has learned his lesson. He knows particular people from certain region do not like me. Particular certain region, they are obsessed.
My energy here.
They are obsessed with me. So now he's maneuvering around. He wants the next candidate or government or whatever. He might even be neutral.
I don't think at any point Raila would ever be neutral. I don't think he would not hold back and say,
he might decide, oh, so you called me a traitor after all I've done for you. He might decide, go your way.
Let it happen.
Because if Mr. Ruto comes back,
let me
cry
tell you
without
something.
Saying
it was my fault. Because I've learned that I've had a question being asked many times.
Ruto
people
himself,
have talked about
look at his body language at this very moment. you can see he's also learning something. That governing Kenyans
is not as easy.
Yes.
And also, what
I've
seen is that there is a question that people always ask. People have said Ruto must go, but then again, the question is, what alternative leadership is there?
Yeah.
Because now you're saying, okay, it's good, he will go.
I want to go. Now you brought the a very good point.
Yeah.
That's what Kenyan politics is all about.
It's all about, yeah.
It's all about get out.
Get out. So
they don't care who's coming.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem we have.
The last time is who get out.
Yeah, get out. So who comes in?
But the guy who they are bringing, he cares about the border and borders. He's a joker. We already knew that. But we knew because you want to get out.
When it comes to alternative leadership,
Number two, just look at Raila's speech. They are telling him get out of the EU. For what?
So
what should he? When he gets out of the EU, what does he do?
What next? Anyhow, thank you so much to everyone that is tuning into this particular podcast, and we want to thank you so much for being with us on this episode.
Yes.
Remember, you can always connect with us, give us your feedback, and also just drop your comment and show us some love. You can email us kenyanpodcast@gmail.com, and I will be more than happy to connect, interact, and keep building right here on the platform. Maybe Laxon has closing remarks. Have you mind?
Yeah, I'm still in that Mr. Odinga's loss.
Yeah.
I was a bit hurt.
You took it personal.
I took it personally. I couldn't understand.
Kenyan politics is personal, is it? Or is Kenyan politics?
I couldn't understand. Why would Kenyans not support their own? If you didn't like this guy, maybe you could have taken another guy.
But there is also a whole lot of hypocrisy. There is also a whole lot of hypocrisy. Let me ask you something. At the very first time, Rigathi himself, let me go back to Rigathi. Rigathi said that Raila Odinga can never be a leader and he cannot be trusted and all those things he said. But then again, the other day, he goes up on Twitter and says, I support Mr. Raila Odinga. He's very capable. His leadership, his exemplary leadership. So
but
why then a change of heart?
It's
politics.
Even if it was Uhuru Kenyatta or Kalonzo Musyoka, we could have fronted a candidate who we all supported.
But Kenyans are very hard to agree on anything. It's very difficult that Kenyans agree on one thing.
Now that's the problem with our country. We need to now start
agreeing on things
about policy, about leadership. It's not giving people red cards. That politics imepitwa na wakati.
You should not be there.
Those are my closing remarks. We need to change our politics.
Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you, and thank you so much. Until next time, much peace and love. I want you to be happy and a productive time. Thank you so much for your support. For now, it's me signing out. Kwaheri.